At some time or another,
Yes.
we have all had friends or family or coworkers who seemingly deny reality.
No.
9/11 was a CIA plot.
Yeah. No.
No. Okay. The Earth is flat. Well, it could be. Looks flat here.
There's a lot of basketball players who believe that apparently. That's
well,
a big NBA thing
At
these
least
days.
one. Okay. Elvis is alive and living, on Mars with,
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know, Marilyn Monroe and their love child. We may roll our eyes or try to reason with them, but in the end, it's all usually pretty harmless. I mean, we joke with them about it and whatnot, and it's fine. I mean, it is what it is. But what if the person denying reality, business reality, let's say, or financial reality, or customer reality, or product reality, is your boss? Everyone in the company knows the product is a stinker, or that the customers really aren't in love with you. Everything is just fine. Your boss thinks it's all good. Don't worry about it.
It's all good, man.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Well, that's the subject of an article this week from Gleb Tsipursky titled "Got a Boss Who Denies Reality? A Behavioral Scientist's Guide to Tactful Truth-Telling." And Gleb Tsipursky is a behavioral scientist.
Makes sense.
In his article, Tsipursky points out that bosses, they're really no different than the rest of us. We all tend to doggedly hang on to beliefs, even when presented with facts that run contrary to those beliefs. There are a lot of reasons for this, and we've heard them before. We've even talked about some of them on the show before. There are things like confirmation bias, where we only believe those things that confirm our own beliefs, what we all believe. Or we talked about this a few weeks ago, the sunk cost fallacy, which is a tendency to kind of double down on past decisions, even when an objective assessment shows the decision to be problematic. And these beliefs are hard to dislodge, but in a company, hanging on to certain types of beliefs can actually harm the company. It can cause them to lose money or lose customers. If you ignore facts telling you that your product is a flop, but you continue to sink money into it with no evidence that it's going to turn around, that is going to hurt your company. And this applies to all aspects of a company. And no company is immune to this. It's just human nature. It's how we're wired. So, how do you combat this? Well, I think the engineer in me, and I know I tried this, I've just asked my wife, you would think that you could just calmly and logically lay out the facts for your boss and she would see the light. Maybe, but not so likely. I mean, you aren't dealing with logic here, you're dealing with emotion. And that, says Tsipursky, is how you have to address the problem. You have to address these problems on the personal, emotional level, not on the logical level. So here's what he suggests. He's got kind of a three-step process. First of all, use curiosity and subtle questioning to figure out your boss's values and goals and how they shape her perception of self-identity. In other words, what makes this person tick? Not everybody is good at empathy, but it's a good way to start because, number two, once you understand what makes a person tick, what's important to them, you can share that is important to you too. In a business environment, this isn't particularly hard. We all in our hearts have really the same goals, right? We want our company to succeed. We kind of understand what it takes to succeed. But echoing that back to your boss, that you understand his concerns and also share them, puts you on the same wavelength. Now you're kind of, we're speaking the same language now. I've kind of understand where you're coming from. Now I'm echoing back to you. Yeah, I feel your pain. I understand what you're talking about. I feel it too. Now you're kind of on the same wavelength, which allows you to kind of move on to the other step. But before we get there, this is called mirroring. And a lot of people think that mirroring, which is what we're talking about here when you kind of echo things back, is manipulative. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Maybe it's manipulative if you really don't believe the goals and you're just saying it just in order to kind of get some companionship going here, and then I'll tell you what you want, right? But if you really do believe in those goals, then you're simply reinforcing that your boss isn't alone in his or her concerns, and that's what's important here. So the third step, gently describing, maybe through other business examples, how your boss's course of action is undermining what you both have agreed on is a common goal. At that point, it might even make sense to start bringing in the facts and figures. Look, okay, now that we're speaking the same language, you really kind of, I know what you want, I want it too, but I think the way you're trying to go about this, it isn't really working. Let me show you what I got here. Then you can kind of trot out the facts and figures, and maybe they'll be more conducive to listening to what you have to say here. Now, the thing that's interesting about this to me is this process he just described. We actually do that every day in our personal relationships.
Sure.
Step 1 and 2 already done. If you and I are friends or my family members, I already know them. I already kind of know what's important to them, what makes them tick, because we're friends. We've shared a lot of stuff together. We've been near each other for a long period of time. I kind of know what makes you tick. You know what makes me tick. Automatically, we start to mirror each other. That's how cliques are formed, right? As people start dressing alike, talking alike. That's mirroring. So steps 1 and 2 are already done. And as a consequence, normally in our personal lives, we're already doing this. We're saying, I'm kind of echoing back to you, Mike, yeah, I know that's important to you. Yeah, I understand. Here's maybe how we should approach it. It's just in a business sense, we don't often do that because you don't normally get that close to your boss in that sense. So you're kind of, you have to force yourself to take steps 1 and 2 because you just haven't done it naturally in the course of doing business.
Yeah, and there's so much psychology that's in this piece than you would expect from a Sapersky.
Right.
But I mean, to me, this comes down to, not to get too abstract here, the nature of truth. I mean, you're saying you have a boss that doesn't face reality. Well, have you faced your own reality? Have you looked at what, maybe...
Right, what you believe, right?
Yeah, have you looked at what you believe? I mean, maybe the first step really there is, okay, let me examine my own belief system going into that. Okay, maybe my boss has a reality that I don't think is real, but maybe I don't either. And maybe what the boss is saying is looking at things and factors that I'm not even considering. Stakeholders, shareholders, his or her bosses, whatever it may be. There's other things going on often that you just are seeing your own little piece of it. So maybe even the first step is asking, okay, this is what I think is going on. As much as you can tell me, what do you think is going on from your perspective? And maybe you'll get educated yourself first and say, you know what, maybe that reality that the boss is working under has some validity to it.
Well, I mean, actually, that's a good point, because what Sapersky describes here, he's talking about it in terms of you trying to convince your boss.
Right.
But once you do steps 1 and 2, kind of getting on to get on the same wavelength, yeah, it may work the other way. You may go, oh,
now I see.
Now I see what you're talking about.
Way.
Yeah. But you have to kind of, you have to get that conversation going first. And I think that's really the main thrust of it.
Well, and this is a good article for anybody, including bosses, because you want to foster that kind of conversation too. You don't want, as a boss, to have a closed door where you can't foster that. So if you're doing the right thing as a manager in your organization and you're allowing people to express some doubts, let's be honest. I mean, doubts are good because you may find a better way of doing something. So challenge, you want to encourage people to challenge your reality. Maybe you can challenge theirs back, and maybe you'll come to a better solution.
Absolutely.
Really good article there. I like that one.
Yep.